Good afternoon, students. We had completed our last topic, that is IO software layers. We'll start with the next topic, that is disk. But before disk, I would like to give you the description of device drivers. Device drivers I have explained you, but those who want can take the screenshot of this device driver diagram, as well as they can take these device independent software functions, that is uniform interface, buffering, error reporting, allocating and releasing dedicated devices, providing device independence. Then if uniform interfacing for devices is there, how it is in USB and SCSI disk drivers, whereas when you provide a proper standard, how it works like, if it is without standard, how it works like. Then there is buffering for unbuffered input, buffering in user space, buffering in kernel space, double buffering in kernel space. So there are types in buffering as well. So buffering over a networking process for copying the packets, that is transferring the data, that is this process. User space IO software, so what are those? So there is hardware, interrupt handler, device driver. In user process, there is device, it's vice versa, that is device independent software, device driver, interrupt handlers and hardware. At a descending level it is in the layers as well. The next topic of this chapter is disk. So the most disk is come in variety of types. So there are a number of disks, they have variable choices in disk. Most common ones are magnetic hard disk. So the magnetic hard disk are a very popular one, and they are characterized by the fact that reads and writes are equally. So reading and writing over the magnetic disk is equally fast, which makes them suitable for secondary memory. And these type of magnetic disk are used in the secondary memory and paging and file system, etc. So paging the devices, that is dividing the dividing the pages, then file systeming, all these things use magnetic disk. Array of these disks are sometimes used to provide highly reliable storage. Array of this disk means a range of magnetic disk can be provided for reliable storage, dependent storage on large amount of data. For distribution of programs, data and movies, optical disc, that is DVDs and Blu-ray are also important. So Blu-ray and DVD disc, that is optical disc, are also used to share programs, data and movies. Finally, solid state discs are increasingly popular as they are fast and do not contain moving parts. So solid state disc like your magnetic disc, these type of discs are easily the popularity of these discs are increasing because their content of moving parts is not available. They are fast and reliable, data dependent. Their data does not get lost anywhere over the network. So first one is magnetic disk. So giving a short information about magnetic disk first. The magnetic disk are organized into cylinders. So a cylinder format is there for a magnetic disk, which are divided into many tracks as there are heads stacked upright. So your magnetic disk is like a cylinder format which has certain tracks into it, that is each level is divided into certain blocks, and these blocks are stacked upright for heading means to arrange the data. Each track comprises of many sectors. Now each track here has many small sectors, so each box can be called as a sector. The total sectors around the perimeter normally being 8 to 32 on a floppy disk. So for a floppy disk, the sectors are in the perimeter, that is the whole, 8 to 32. Some hundreds in numbers on hard disk. So some hundreds in numbers are for hard disk. The number of heads present varies from 1 to 16 in numbers. So these heads which are there over will be from 1 to 16 in numbers, that is a range. Some magnetic disks just send a simple serial bit stream and it comprises a little electronics into it. some will have only electronic simple structure. On these disks the controller does most of the work. So the controller works with your storage, and on these disks the controller majorly works. On disk like IDE, that is integrated drive electronics disk, the drive itself have a microcontroller. Now these disks will have their own microcontrollers as well that carry out some work and permits the real controller to issue a set of higher level commands. So these microcontrollers also issue a higher level commands. A device characteristic that has significant implications for the disk driver is the possibility of a controller doing 6 or more than one drive simultaneously. So the significant implications of disk driver possibilities. Significant means to possibly make the disk a proper usage. A controller doing seek operations over the drive is there, searching some spaces over the things so that overlap seeks are also available, that is overlapping a particular sector is also possible. Then when you talk about the magnetic disks are organized into cylinders, each one containing many tracks. These tracks are divided into sectors with number of sectors around the circumference typically being 8 to 32. On these disks, controller does the most of the work, and serial ATA disk, the drive itself contains a microcontroller and considerably work allows the real time issue. So these are the things which I explained you. So usually the number of cylinders for IBM PCs was 40, and for WD 3000 HLFS hard disk it is 36,481. Tracks per cylinder 255. Then sectors 963 average here. Then 720. Then 5 lakh, sorry 586. Then 072 368 is the range they have given. Then bits are 512 512 360 300 GB. Here it is only disk capacity is KB. 6 meter per second. Then here is 0.7 meter per second, 77 meter per second. Then 4.2 meter per second rotation time. So everything for a disk parameter are being shown. IBM original IBM PC 360 KB floppy disk and a Western Digital 3000 HLF Velociraptor hard disk it is. Then your magnetic disk also contains RAID functioning. RAID is redundant array of disk. So redundant array of independent disk. So what does RAID perform? Actually you can see these cylinders arranged into strip like structure. So these strip like structures have strip 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have arrangement. Then here you can see RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID level 2, RAID level 3. So we'll go each and every one. So the performance of your CPU has been rising immensely over the past decade. So performance means the capacity and the storage is increasing and it is getting more and more higher in level. So it is getting increasing by 100% after every 1.5 years. So after every 1.5 year 100% of the storage capacity is being backed up for the storage levels. And on the contrary, disk performance is not increasing with this speed. So with this speed the disk performance is not increasing, somewhere it is lacking up behind. Nowadays average seek time of the disk is near about 10 meter seconds, which is very less compared to average seek time to 50 to 100 meter second on mini computers in the decade of 1970s. So in 1970s it was being expected that 50 to 100 meter per second should have been the speed of mini computers, like the mini computers of the normal systems. So this proposal soon agreed by the industry and has made possible a new class of input output device. To make the performance level higher, you have a redundant array of disk, which stands for RAID, redundant array of inexpensive disk or independent disk. That depends totally on the system. Firstly it was inexpensive, but priorly now it has been independent disk. The fundamental thought behind the RAID is to mount a bunch of disk beside the computer, usually which is larger server, put RAID controller in place of disk controller, hard controller card, copy the data on RAID, then carry unusual operation. The intention of RAID should be appear a single large expensive disk to the operating system but have improved performance and improved reliability. What was done, rather than controller, RAID controller was being placed in the RAID functioning, and to increase the performance level, what was done, a bunch of disks were placed beside the computer as a larger server to store the levels in the data, and according to level of data the RAID disk will be stored for increasing the performance and the improved reliability. That is, the data storage would be reliable, it should not get lost anywhere. As SCSI disks are characterized by better performance, low cost, and the capability to include up to 7 drives on a single controller, it is usual that most RAID contains RAID SCSI controller. Now, only not SCSI, it is combined with RAID SCSI controller in addition to bunch of SCSI disk, which operating system can think as a single large disk. So operating system can take it as a single large disk for operation as well. Now there are levels in RAID, that is RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 2 and RAID level 3. So these levels specify the functioning of the data over each level. So we'll see RAID level 0. RAID level 0, it gives the impression of virtual single disk simulated by RAID as being split into strips of K sectors by means of sectors 0 to K minus 1 being strip 0. Then sectors K to K minus 1 as strip 1. So it increases every time by K1, strip sectors 2 in K2, then strip 3 will be K is equal to 3, and they will minus each one from that level at the successive strips over, that is increasing the strips and deducting one at a time from the level. If the larger number of requests are present, then RAID level 0 works better. So RAID level 0 works better if there are larger number of requests in it. If number of drives times the strip size is less than that request, some of the drives will receive more than one request with the intention that when they complete the first request, they initiate the second one. So one after the another is the process in RAID level 0. Next is RAID level 1. So when we talk about RAID level 1, RAID level 0 and 1 operate with strips of sector only. So they will work with strip only, and you can see these strips in RAID level 2 are bit 1, bit 2 and bit 3 likewise. So this is the parity, that is each bit increasing can be called as a parity, as well as division of bytes on single virtual disk into two 4-bit nibbles, then inserting a Hamming code to each one to build a 7-bit word having bits 1, 2 and 4 parity bits. So each and every time it is increasing a bit of code, Hamming code is being applied over these disks so that the performance level can be increased. Then you have machines, that is RAID level 2 and 3, which is increasing bit by bit for the data, and you have one extra parity bit in the RAID level 3 for initiation. So you have RAID level 4, 5 and 6 as well. Then you have P3.3-5, 3-5, that is parity. If your spaces are empty, you can go for a synchronized format. Operations are carried out on all the strips together All the strips together operations will be carried out. No single strip will run on it. This operation results in parity strip of k length byte. K length means we cannot decide the number of bits over processing. In case of failure of drive, the lost bytes can be recovered by recomputing from the parity drive. From the parity drive itself, you can recover the data which has been lost. Next is, as a result of huge load of parity drive, it may turn into a bottleneck, that is a small figure through which the data cannot be removable, and by splitting the parity bits evenly over all the drives is round robin manner. Is round robin algorithm can be applied for such manners to remove the data or to mine the data. Yet in case of a failure of drive, rebuilding the contents of failed drive is complex process. So rebuilding the drive again is a very complex process, and through which, so again and again rewriting the data should not be done over RAID. Next is disk formatting. Disk formatting is pre-emblem data and ECC. So disk formatting is done for what? To remove the data or to clean up the data. Disk formatting is done. Disk formatting looks easier, but then if data lost permanently is lost, you cannot back up into the disk. Disk formatting, disk rotation is being done, and according to which each and every sector is being removed over the disk. Small disk, that is no interleaving or single interleaving, that is each and every zone of the disk if you want to remove, you can go with this type of format. Disk arm scheduling algorithm. Now disk scheduling, you have a number of algorithms here for disk scheduling. The first one is disk arm scheduling algorithm. It has seek time, it has rotational delay, actual data transfer, and what are they? We'll see that. Firstly, we have to consider how long it takes to read and write the disk of a block. So how we will calculate the time required for the disk to rotate, to read and write. The time required is determined by considering three factors. So the time which is calculated is calculated over three factors, that is seek time. Seek time is, it is the time to move the arm to the proper cylinder. So the storage cylinder which is required, the arm to move on that particular cylinder is seek time, that is searching time. Rotational delay is the time for the proper sector to rotate under the head. So proper cylinder to rotate over that particular head is the rotational delay. Actual data transfer, that is for the majority of disks, the seek time taken over on the other two times. So minimizing the mean seek time can enhance the system performance. So for that you have to transfer the data. If requests are taken by the disk drive one at a time and process them out in the same order, then first come first serve FCFS, there is no more scope to optimize the seek time. To increase the seek time is not possible. You can go with the first come first serve algorithm for the functioning. So disk arm scheduling works in this reference, first come first serve, that is shortest seek first is also possible through this. Shortest seek first means whichever is in the short duration, complete that. Whichever is the shortest position over the cylinder, whose mean time is also minimum, we can go for that shortest seek time. Then the next is elevators, you can say scanning algorithm, scheduling disk request, how they disk, that is initial request, how it is processed over the algorithm. Then next is error handling, how do you handle the error. Elevator, one more thing is there over elevator, I will explain you. Elevator algorithm handles nearest request in increasing, that is decreasing order, and until no more request on the way. So there should be, in the elevator you should have no more other request at a time. It will go in the increasing order, and afterwards the direction is reversed. Once it reaches that direction, again it will reverse the condition, that is elevator. Next is error handling. Now, error handling: due to improvement in manufacturing technology, it is possible to operate faultlessly at high densities. Disk designers will surely go through higher densities to increase the capacity. Why is error done? Error is because of storage, input, resources, processing, a lot of concerns, and because of which somewhere people are trying to design the disk in such a way that they get the high density output over that disk, and the error rate could be decreased. So manufacturing defects introduce bad sectors. So manufacturing defects also have some bad reasons for further processing. If sectors are bad, then it is not possible to read back the value just written to them. So sometimes reading back the values because of the bad sectors is not possible. Bad sectors means the major drawback concern of that particular product. And if the defect is pertaining to small number bits, then it is possible. So if it is not giving some minor issues, then we can use that process. If it is giving you a bad sector, that is error communication, so we have to correct those errors, and for that error handling is being done. Bad blocks can be handled either is in controller or OS. So microcontrollers or your normal controllers can handle these small errors. But if bad sectors are handled inside the controller, then spare sectors are reversed on surface, and any bad sector are shifted to spare sector. So spare sectors will be given if the errors are handled, and they will be reversed again to the bad sector. That space will be empty and it will be shifted by one further. It is shown in the first figure, that is this one. If it is replacement done, it will be done like this, that is replacement of one spare will be done by these bad sector here. And if third one is shifting all the sectors to bypass the bad one, if you want to leave that bad sector, you can add that spare sector here and shift by one and go further for solving that error. So these are the three types, that is a disk track with a bad sector. So once bad sector is being tracked, remove that bad sector and add two spare sectors into it. Second is replace that one spare sector with bad sector and discard this one. And the third one is shifting it by one and adding that one spare here and one in the between there where bad sector has been bypassed. So these are the three types of error handling done. Next is stable storage, stable writes, stable reads, and crash recovery. Why are stable storage used? Due to errors by disk, good sectors can abruptly become bad sectors. So because of these errors, good sectors can also change into bad sectors, and for that whole drives can be die unexpectedly. So whole process can get discarded. It is possible for RAIDs to protect against a few sectors going bad or even drive failing out. So but write errors and crashes cannot be protected by RAIDs. Stable storage ensures that either write will be done or original data will remain intact. For many applications, data is very important and it should be protected with any types of errors. So to protect the data or errors, what we have to do is stable storage makes use of pair of identical disk. It will make the use of pair of identical disk. In both the corresponding disk corresponding blocks work together to form one error free block. If the errors do not occur, then the corresponding blocks on both drives are identical. If they are not, errors are not there, they will be identical. By reading both blocks, we will get the same result. This is possible by following three operations, that is stable write, stable read, and crash recovery. So identical type of crash recovery, again if crashes occur, both disk corresponding blocks are scanned. Both the identical disk which are working as stable storage will be scanned over for the processing. This is done over stable storage, that is this is the scenario, that is analysis of influences of crash on the stable. If crash occurs, it will crash the data and a new independent disk will be shown, same like the first disk, that is duplicating the disk over the storage so that system can manage the storage level for protecting the data over network. With this, we'll stop here for this topic. We will continue the next topic in the next lecture. Thank you.